It's a seller's market out there, so do I sell the 2JZ M3 or do I keep it? Of course, the day we decide to shoot this video, it pours out there, and I did drive this car to work today, but man, it is filthy. Now, on to more important things, and that is whether I should sell the 2JZ M3 or not. If you guys watched a previous video on our overpriced car market, you know right now vehicles are commanding a premium. And that has gotten me to thinking, you know, should I sell this vehicle? And I've been going back and forth on this, and I can't really make a decision. It's just so difficult to part with this car because it is so good. Every time I drive it, I think this is the perfect BMW because it has a 2JZ engine in it. I know it's gonna be reliable. It makes so much power. We're gonna go for a ride later in this episode just to show you why I think it's so good. But before we do that, I wanted to get to a couple of things of tuning this car up, including a new set of wheels. So you're gonna have to stay tuned for that one. But let's start off with something that I think has been irking me for quite a bit of time. This one may seem minor to some of you, but what is happening that is causing me so much anguish right now when I drive this vehicle is that the temperature, no matter what it says here, you can see right now it says 16 degrees. If I adjust this up all the way to 30, which would be full warm, and 16 by the way is full cold, the temperature does not change. So whether when I'm driving the car, whether I want it to be cool or hot, this does nothing. So the temperature is coming through. Right now what I'm doing is actually adjusting. Thankfully this has like this fresh weather adjustment here where I can go right here, and I think it just closes off the heater core and it pumps fresh air in. So if it's cold outside, I can get fresh, cool air through there. But right now this is doing nothing, and I think I know the problem. So let's jump under the hood and see. First of all, behold the 2JZ in the E46 M3. I think the perfect combination of engine and chassis. It's so cool. So what we have going on here is this car, for I guess it being a Canadian vehicle, had a cold weather package or whatever that is. And that means it doesn't have just a very simple heater control valve. What it has is another pump that was added onto it. When you start the vehicle up and it's cold, it actually helps cycle the coolant into the heater core to warm it up. I think what it's doing is just like leaving the valve open at all times. I've tried a different bunch of combinations. If you come in here, Dave, you can see this is that motor I was telling you about, and this is the heater valve. And if I have this hooked up, it doesn't work properly. So I unplugged this, tried that didn't work properly. I did the opposite where I unplugged this, tried to plug this in, that didn't work properly. So at this point, what I did is I jumped onto FCP Euro, bought a Febi replacement unit, and this is the one with the non-cold weather package. So you can see it's just a simple valve in here. And if I test this right now, if I plug this thing in, you can see, there it goes. See, it's jumping up and down. So right now it's set to full cool. So the coldest setting, and you can see it's closing the valve. So what I'm gonna do is, I think at this point, swap this over and it should fix all of my problems here. Today is a quick jack kind of day. We do have a hoist here, but sometimes this is the better and quicker solution for us. And as you can see, this is super friendly for any of you guys working at home. You can get the car up to what I think is a pretty damn good height, and you can crawl underneath with ease without having to have a hoist in your home garage. So if you're looking for somewhat, between a hoist and floor jacks, this is, I think, one of the better things out there. Installing this is going to be a very, very straightforward affair. The tricky part is I don't want to lose a bunch of coolant. I don't want to drain the cooling system. So I've got my hose clamp plier out here. Really what I need to do is buy another one of these because in this case, there are two hoses. So what I'm going to do is use a set of some needle nose vice grips, which is not ideal because these can harm the hose. I'm just going to be very, very gentle with them, but I should be able to plop these on here. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but that is on there. I'm gonna clamp it to the max setting here, max tightness level. Okay, so that one's on. Okay, I think that's good there. All right, so they're both on. Let's disconnect these hoses and see what happens. Check this out. I tapped the frame rail here. I was trying to get to the bottom of the hose clamp, and listen closely.
Is that water falling off? What is that?
No, I think it's just like there's a ton of dirt underneath from it being just so wet. As you can see, it's just like crumbling down. If I do it again here.
Oh yeah.
It's just all, it's raining rocks, and that's the kind of stuff we have to contend with, unfortunately, in these types of situations up here in our all-weather climate where there's just like grime and dirt. Like, look at the front of this. This is from today, just driving, and now it's all kind of, the rain seeps through and ruins what was such a nice looking valve cover. I mean, it's all cleanable, but it still kind of sucks. Oh my God, there's so much coming. Look at it. There's so much coming out here. Oh, damn it. Look at it. Okay, get that out here quick. Oh yeah, you can hear it. Oh no, I dropped it. Oh my God.
Butterfingers.
Yep,
Right on time.
It's bad. It's bad. Oh no, I can hear it just like completely draining the system.
Well, let's have a look here, everyone.
I can't get it on. That was a huge pain to get it in there. And the other thing that was a problem was, you can see this is the one that we pulled out. It's actually, these fittings are moved forward. So when I fitted this up, I actually had to like move it down and forward a little bit. Otherwise, I would have had to replace the hoses because they were just a little bit too short. So anyways, look at this thing. You can see this is what I was talking about. So this is like that extra motor here that I think pumps coolant into here and like speeds it up or whatever it does. It's just unneeded, and it was causing me all that headache. So now I think we're good. Obviously, when we go for the test drive, we'll test it out. One of the other things that I think this setup is lacking is a set of gauges, and I really didn't want to put a set of actual physical gauges in the vehicle. I find I really like the OEM look of it right now. So I talked to Mark over at Panic Made, and of course, he had a brilliant solution for me, and that is this right here, which is essentially a plug that plugs into, I guess it's called like the diagnostic port or the output port on our Link ECU, and it goes and connects to an OBD2 interface. This is a BAFX Products one, which has a Bluetooth connection. So now what I'm gonna be able to do is put this into the cabin very close to the Android head unit and download an app, which will now give me gauges, and I'm gonna be able to see a whole host of items off that the Link is monitoring. So first things first though, I need to take this wire, plumb it up from the cabin into this area here. So that turned out pretty good. There was like this little access panel right here, and all I did was run the cable through it. I think that's like a breather port from the main ECU box. So that was a much easier job than I expected. You can see now the cable is plugged into the ECU. Sorry, this is all just super tight here, so I can't really show you exactly how, but you can imagine it just connects to the ECU now. So we are done here. With a bit of fiddling, I was able to get that OBD2 dongle, back in there. So it is now connected to the Link. And if you guys can see this, I've downloaded this app called Torque Pro, which now connects to that adapter. And look at this. I've just set this up really quickly. We have all the information we need. You can see, for example, the pedal right here. That's full throttle, that's off. Our cooling temperature is 84 Fahrenheit. Our intake air temperature is 71. Obviously boost 0, revs, speed, we've got volts. So this is super cool, and you can just like add a display, go in here, and there's a ton of options. So they're pulling this information from the link right now, and we have like, there's so many great things that I can now log. So it's super, super cool. For those of you that haven't watched this video series, you may not know these wheels. They are Forgeline GTD monoblock series wheels, a professional motorsport grade wheel. They are absolutely stunning. I love them. I think they look super cool on this car, like the concave. This is like a titanium silver color, which looks beautiful as well. However, that being said, we do have a square setup on this vehicle right now, which is an 18 by 9.5 plus 22 with 265 contact extreme sports all the way around. And what I find is the front, despite fitting, is a very, very track and aggressive setup. We have over 3.5 degrees, actually I should say 3.5, we do have 3.5 degrees of negative camber dialed in. And I find these wheels, like when you lower the car, they stick out quite a bit. So there's a lot of like front overhang. You can see here, there's a ton of overhang in the front and rear. And for a track car, I think that's a really cool look. For the street, I love it some days, and some days I'm like, oh man, this is too much. So I decided to change it up, and for that I went to a set of OEM BMW wheels. Can you guys guess what these are off of? These are also off of an M3. These are like the base model 18-inch. I think they're style 219M wheels that came on E92 or E90 M3s. I think they're really, really cool. I bought them off a fan, and they did come with these Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, which are in okay shape. But of course, I wanted to upgrade to some Contis. Sadly, as you can see, there are only 3 here. Why are there 3? Well, that's because FedEx has somehow misplaced the 4th tire, and they have not arrived in time for us to shoot when we're shooting this video. So these are gonna get mounted up soon. I hope FedEx does find that tire and it arrives here quickly. But in the meantime, just to show you guys what these are gonna look like, I'm gonna bolt these on. You may see these wheels are not necessarily in the greatest condition. They have a bunch of curb rash. Someone has decided to like spray paint the lip here. You can see there was like some rash here, and they just gave like a quick hit of Plasti Dip or something on it, which isn't great. So if I do like these wheels, I'm certainly gonna refinish them, but let's bolt them up and see what they look like. Coming down here, I can tell you right now, the front, well, it's gonna be pretty sunken in, especially given the amount of camber we have.
Yeah.
Wow, man, it's crazy when you look at it this way. Like the amount of camber that we have dialed in here, like it's significant. I mean, if I took some of that out, I certainly think I could fix this. That right there is a 10 mil spacer, and the look has improved tremendously. I think, again, if I take a bunch of camber out of this right now, I could probably get this to sit in line with the rear in terms of like fender clearance, so it doesn't look so much more sunken up front. And again, I do like the look. I think it's very, very different. It's more OEM. So make sure you guys post in the comments. Let me know what you think. Also, let me know what you think about color. I'm not 100% sold on the gunmetal. I've been thinking maybe I would go with something more similar to the Forgeline, which is like a silver, like an OEM BMW silver. Maybe I go with like a hyper silver, which is a little bit flat, because these wheels definitely do need refinishing. These Recaro Sportster GT seats, which are fabric, are arguably one of the best seats ever made, in my opinion, as a reclinable seat for like street / track use. I absolutely love them. Dave loves them. They just like, they fit your body so well. They're comfortable, like for long rides, they're so nice. They give you good bolstering where you need it, but it's not like up in the shoulder area, you still have good bolstering, but it doesn't like encompass you. And you know, they're a great alternative to a bucket seat for guys that want to drive their cars on the street as well. So why am I talking about these seats? Well, you'll notice these are fabric and these are a black vinyl. And what I've decided to do is I'm gonna swap over to this seat just to make sure, just to like give the interior a more matching feel. These fabric ones, there is no fabric elsewhere in the interior of this vehicle. It's all black, like the rear is the M black leather seating. You may be wondering where I got these from, and they have been sitting in my stash for quite a long time. I've been saving them for the Porsche 930, but wanting to have a proper matching interior in this car, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna swap these over. So let's put them in and then we can compare the difference. The seats are in, and as you'd expect, they feel very much like the other ones. There's a little bit more sliding around because they're vinyl instead of fabric, but they still have that great support and so much adjustability. And truth be told, I certainly think they fit the interior much better. Before we take the M3 for a ride, I wanted to give you a quick update on the shop. As you guys may or may not have seen in this video, we now have a third bend pack 4-post lift. This is their 7P model, and what we love about it is, first of all, it's 100 inches wide, so it's pretty narrow for all things considered for these 4-post lifts, which gives us the ability to put 3 of them in this shop here with room to spare on the sides, which was super great for us. You can see we built out a stack here, we put another rack here, and we can just have so much more space, which has ultimately been our goal here. The other awesome thing with this is it is 110 volts. So in our case, we did not have 200 or 230 volt running to the back of the shop. So that limited us with what we could get. And we were able to buy one of these with the 110 volt option, which makes it super great. The one thing you will have to have is air for the safety locks on this. But now that we have this in place, we have 6 cars stacked up here. And then we've got a spot for another one down there, which is our 350Z has been tucked away. So man, we are super pumped to have this and finally be done with all of like the moving around, and maybe I'll call it renovating around here. So the shop is kind of perfect. Now it's just a matter of getting to our builds. But before we do that, let's take that M3 out for a ride.
All right, I can already see why you don't want to sell it, PT. This thing feels pretty amazing.
It's just like driving it right there. It just has this specialness to it.
It does.
Like, look, and I'm not even like leaning into it.
The power is
There's
insane.
just like between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM. It just like has this surge, this pickup. It's absolutely beautiful.
That's at like
it's
30% throttle.
I know, man. It's like so good.
You never need to go full throttle in this car.
No,
It's
you
so
really don't.
fast.
And it's scary. Like let's just roll into this thing here. Oh my God, man!
It just
You see what I
lights
mean?
up
Like,
the tires.
oh, I can't.
Yeah, it's insanely fast.
That's our street gas too.
Yeah,
Like look.
it's nuts.
But I mean, it's so awesome.
Oh, it is.
Like, to feel that. That's just.
It's addictive to have that much power on your foot. No doubt about it.
It's hard to explain, honestly. Like
is,
until
yeah.
you own a 2J car and you get to drive it on a daily, and you really realize like the turbo size that we went with this car, I think is perfect. It's amazing on the street. Like I'm at 3,000 RPM here, and you can just look at it. It just like comes on. That's like whatever 50% throttle pedal or whatever, and it's remarkable. It really is, like the way it just
And it sounds amazing too.
Yeah, yeah, and it drives good. Like, feel this thing, man.
Yeah, it
you know,
does
especially
feel-
in these Recaros.
Yeah.
It feels right. Like, everything does feel so good.
It does, yeah. The seats are amazing, and even the ride quality out of these GRZs, which is a pretty hardcore setup, rides remarkably well on the street.
It so does. It so does.
It's a little busy in the rear end, but I mean, that's just spring rates at the end of the day. You could tune some of that out if you wanted to.
For sure you could, but man, it's so remarkable. Like, this car is perfect. The shifter is something I would love to address in the future. I'd love to figure out how to go back to a stock one. I think it's one of those things that's needed for me. Like, it's certainly a personal preference thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with it per se. It's just on the street. It's a very, you know, connected feel. So you really, like, you can't dilly-dally. You gotta
be forceful.
You really gotta be, yeah, that's a good term, I guess, forceful, and make sure that you're making the shift properly. So, but yeah,
it gives you a very motorsports feel. But in a daily driver, do you want that kind of hardcore, gotta smash the gears feeling? Right. Maybe you just want a lighter, you know, slightly rubbery feeling shifter, just because
it just makes you, you know, it gives you that OEM feel, which, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I've become soft per se.
Yeah.
You know, as you get older, you want more of that OEM feel, but with this engine, like, that's to me the perfect combo. If I can get an OEM shifter into this car,
should be very doable,
and be able to you know, retain this 2J and just the amazing power, and like, this engine is so smooth.
It is.
Like, it just makes all the torque. It has, it's like, checks everything off as like, yes, good, yes, like, what else do you want in this chassis other than this motor? In my opinion, like, S54, don't even talk to me about it. This engine blows it away with everything.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I mean, NA versus NA, I'll take an S54, but if you're gonna put boost through the motor, you're gonna have a hard time beating a 2J with anything, really. And inline sixes are very special in the way they seem to have very low NVH, like very low harmonic issues. So they feel very smooth, they feel very refined. Where V6s have a lot of NVH going on. Harmonically, they don't work nearly as well as an inline six. They're just easier for packaging, which is why OEMs went to them, I think. But man, I do love the feel and the sound of an inline six. It's just such a sweet sound.
All right, let me give you a quick.
All right.
Oh man,
it's a rocket ship. It's violent.
And it's just so good because, like, it's manageable too.
It's
spinning the tires, I know, but it's spinning the tires there, but you can just feel it's like right at that level of like, I'm gonna blow the tires off, or I'm gonna keep you going in a straight line.
Yeah, and the street tune's nice that way. It's not so much power that you nuke the tires immediately. So
it's radical.
It's also a beautiful car. Like, to me, the E46 M3 is one of the best looking sports coupes ever made. Like, there's just, as a pure body shape goes, these things are beautiful. And I'm not even a BMW guy, but man, these things are gorgeous to look at. The heater is working.
Yes, I did test this. I don't want to do it on camera because
it's also hot in here. So
it gets pretty hot. That's a downside. This car doesn't have AC, which sucks, which would be something I certainly would love to eventually put into it. But you know,
that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle to make this a really nice street car.
And we need street
quieter brake pads too.
Yes. If I'm going to be running this on the street, this car still has the StopTech racing pads in it, so they do squeal quite a bit.
I mean, to be fair, we did sort of initially set this thing up as a track car.
Yes, we did.
And then when we ran into the heat issues, we just thought, you know what? Do we want to cut this car up and duct it and make it a track car, or do we want to keep it more of a street car? And it is so nice.
It is, man.
I get why you don't want to cut it up.
It's just so good. It's so refined. Like, I can't think of a better engine swap for a BMW of this size. Like, it's the right displacement. It's the right, you know, configuration. Keep it retaining the same gearbox is a huge bonus.
And what Mark Panic did for us as far as like allowing all the gauges and stuff to work in here. I mean, he worked some magic on that.
For sure.
And we would never have been able to do that on our own. That was a work of genius. But wow, what a difference that does make as far as making this more of an OE experience.
Yeah, man. Like,
pretty incredible.
This thing's so good. I've got, you know, no bad things to say about it. You know,
I'm definitely a fan of it. I would hate to see you sell it, but you do have a lot of cars.
Yes.
So there is always that conundrum of, can I drive all of these? Do I want to have all of these dollars tied up in these cars when
sitting around?
Should I be doing other things with it? So I get why you're conflicted over it, but even over here in the passenger seat, I gotta say, I'd be very sad to see it go.
Yeah, man.
I would.
And like cruising on the highway, this thing, if you just like lean into it a bit and give it some gas, it just makes all the right noises.
Yeah.
Like it just, like listen to the turbo. Oh.
Yeah.
And it just has that blow off valve sound. Like it just, oh man.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And the brakes are so good. Like everything, feel this thing. It's,
I don't think you can sell it, Casey. I don't think you can sell it. But if you guys really want to steal it from him, maybe he'll listen to you if you throw him a good enough offer.
So there you have it, everybody. What a machine. I love this car. As I mentioned, there are things that I would like to improve on it, but right now there's just no time. Now the question just really lies, like if I were to sell this car, what would I sell it for? And it would have to be a big number, probably around 50 grand Canadian, which I think is probably a fair price. I don't know, you guys, again, you guys always have a good opinion, so post in the comments, let me know. But I'm not in a rush, and I don't think, even if someone came to me with that price and said tomorrow I'm buying it, I would really have to think about it, because I don't think I would build another vehicle like this again in a long time. And I love the styling, I love the engine. I think it's just like that perfect setup for something for me to drive and enjoy on the street. So thank you so much for watching. If you guys certainly enjoyed this episode, give me a thumbs up. Make sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell. And I hope we will see more of this car, not in the near future, but further down the road as I continue to try to develop it.
I never know if you're gonna give it the full beans when I hear it start to spool up a little.
That's like me just easing into it. It's so good.
It creates a sense of drama.
All those noises.
Man, we're about to go to the moon.